Hello everybody and welcome to the channel. I want to finish off my time with Schedule 1 with a relatively in-depth kind of review. I don't want to go too deep into the weeds about things, but I wanted to cover some overall concepts and stuff, things that are good, things that were not so good, some things I'd like to see in the game, things like that. So I want to start off with, for those of you who may have never heard of this game before, what is Schedule 1? It is a drug dealing game. You are a small-time person wanting to get into the drug trade. You're coming in out from outside of another town, and you're coming into this place called Highland Point, which is this big map over here. There are several different zones in which you can start, in which you can deal, but you start off here in the middle at Northtown, this area right in here. And you're trying to unlock dealers, customers, you're trying to create product, you're trying to ship it, sell it, do all of those things. And that's basically the overall concept, but unfortunately, you're not alone. The cartel is in town as well, and they don't want you edging in on their business. So immediately when you arrive into town, the RV that you came into town with gets blown up, and your uncle tells you, oh yeah, that was the cartel. So that's something you got to watch out for. Fortunately, you don't have to deal with them right away or right at first. You get some time to kind of learn how the game is played, and then eventually you get to the part where you have to deal with them. But for the most part, that becomes a mechanic that you have to deal with later on in the game. Now, the gameplay itself mostly consists of, as you would think, creating a product, finding customers for that product, selling them that product, making that money, taking that money, investing into better equipment, and then turning that equipment into more product, which you sell, and you loop and loop and loop. You start adding in dealers and more dealers so that your customers that you have get offloaded onto them, so you can spend more of your time running the logistics and money side of things rather than having to constantly worry about dealing with customers and orders and all of that kind of stuff. So the gameplay loop for the most part consists of you figuring out ways of maximizing your production, as you can see with our big warehouse right here, and then getting that product out to your dealers. And then if you prefer to do some selling on your own, you can access the various different apps to do all of that stuff. Now, I don't want to do a tutorial on any of this stuff. I may do that after I do my review video, but I wanted to talk about the gameplay loop in and of itself so that you have an idea of what I'm talking about when I start getting into what's good and some other things that you need to, consider as you're playing the game. Now, this game, as crazy and what's the word, as punny as it sounds, it's highly addictive. And it's mostly because the gameplay loop and the way that the game was designed was set up in a way that you kind of almost don't have enough time in the day to get all of the things done that you're trying to get done. Especially as you start getting later into the game and you have multiple properties, and if you set yourself up to where you're having to manage multiple properties, you just don't have enough time in the day to run around and do all the different things that you're going to have to do and deal and do everything. So you have to do some personnel management. And the way that the goals are set up, they're set up in a way that the next thing is just easily attainable. Like, you set a goal and it's not going to take you that long to get to the goal, so you're constantly going, oh well, I want to do this next thing, so let me just keep playing for a little while longer so I can get to that. And then the next thing you know, you spent all day playing this game and the time just went away. But that is an indicator of something that is really good from a gameplay perspective, because the loops and gameplay goals and all of the things that they set up are very achievable, and it's easily broken down into small little chunks, so that the big goal of just taking over the entire city is broken down into a bunch of little things, and it takes just enough time to do everything that most of the time you're going to have to prioritize what you want to do, and you're not going to have enough time to get everything done. And that's why the game is so addictive, because you're constantly trying to, I got to cram in the next thing, I got to cram in the next thing. Like right now, my gameplay loop, by the time I get done with the actual loop of doing the standard daily things that I do, it's about this time in the day. It's getting late, and I don't really have any time to do anything during the day, and now we're getting into nighttime. So that's why this game is really addictive, just like the drugs that we're dealing, because it's just set up really well. Now, the graphics in this game are, outside of the shaders and the shadows and all of that stuff, it is what it is. But this game is living proof that graphics don't make a video game. I would much rather play this than some boring game that has the latest in 3D graphics, because in the end, you stop really seeing the graphics and you're just focused on the gameplay. So while the graphics aren't like visually impressive or anything, number one, because they're not visually impressive, I don't have any stuttering ever, because there's very few polygons to deal with. And so the gameplay experience is just really smooth. And then B, you know, there's fewer chances for crazy visual artifacts given the fact that there's a very limited development team. So, you know, every once in a while you run into something, but the simple graphics make it very easy to just play the game. So graphics overall, I would say obviously 3 or 4 out of 10 from a visual quality perspective, but because the gameplay itself is the thing, I don't really care. And there's a lot of games out there like that where the graphics aren't great, and we're kind of returning back to a point where gameplay is king and graphics are just like, meh, you know, there's that. Now, the other part of what makes this game so addictive is the music. And I forgot to put this in my little thing here, but I'm bringing it up right now because my favorite song is on right now in the game. The ambiance, the music that they chose for this game is perfect for not only the quality of the graphics and stuff that we're getting, but also, and the style, the general style of the game is perfect for the style, but also just for the fact that we're dealing drugs. Like, most of the music that we get in this game is very just kind of out there and spacey, and, you know, what you would think of hearing when you're on some kind of substance. And, you know, you're listening to this song and it's like, yeah, this sounds like something that you might hear in your head while you're tripping on something. So, yeah. The music in this game is another part of why this game is super successful. A lot of people don't really realize that that's what's happening, but when you start packaging the overall experience together, music plays an absolutely critical part in many games. And if you're going to add music, you need to make sure that you're adding the perfect music to go with the game that you're doing, and they knocked it out of the park with this game. So that's a very important thing to think about. Now, the controls for this game are highly intuitive. They follow this pattern for pretty much any first-person game that's out there. You have a 1 through 3, 4, a 1 through 9 or whatever system for your inventory bar, but you can also scroll through them, which makes it very quick. Walking around is WASD, space for jump, shift for run. You left-click to take your skateboard and do all of that kind of cool stuff. So you can run around and you just left-click again. That does take a little bit of getting used to using the left-click button to use your skateboard. You would think it would be something else, but you know, you get used to it. It doesn't become that big of a problem. Driving around is just like walking around, except you can't jump, and there's no sprint option. This is the fastest car in the game, and I find myself using it quite a lot to do my gameplay loop because it gets me around very quickly. The gold skateboard is, you know, pretty fast, but I don't know, it just doesn't feel as fast as that one. I don't know. I feel like in this game, one of the biggest reasons why a lot of people tend to like it is the fact that for most of the equipment, especially the early equipment, you have to pretty much manually do everything. Like even the brick press here, right? Like, you know, if you want to do the brick press, you actually have to pick up. It's full right now. I don't think I have any. Yeah, they're all full. Let me see. I do want to give you guys an example. So, like, this is the kind of stuff you do with all of the equipment that you use, right? You pop the stuff in there, and you actually have to manually do things, right? So you're manually manipulating all of the equipment, which is highly satisfying because, you know, it's the way we are. We like to actually do things. So anytime you're doing anything, you're viscerally manually inputting things to do whatever it is that you're trying to do. All of the storage management and all of that stuff is really cool and not really something you have to worry too much about, but it's all, there's a lot of manual tasks that you have to do that most games would just kind of automate. But because they did it so well, it doesn't really bother you, and it makes you feel like you're actually participating in the game rather than just managing things. And when I first started playing, it kind of bothered me having to do everything by hand, but as we get further in and you start shifting away from the simple days of just packing weed and baggies and moving into running around the stuff, sometimes you go back, sometimes you miss those days of just sitting in front of the packing station and just choop, 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 choop. So there's a really good progression, and the early days feel really good, and it also feels good to graduate. And because the early days are so good, you do miss it a little bit, just like you would in real life when you think back on the days when you did something successful and it's actually working out for you. I would say one of the cooler aspects of this game that you wouldn't really think about until you start... Of course, there's a cop there. You wouldn't really think about until you start interacting with the vehicles is the fact that you are able to actually deal out of your vehicle. Your vehicles have storage spaces that have spots in here, and I can actually, if you have your vehicle within 20 meters, you can access this inventory while you're conducting a deal, and I think that's really awesome. It's really nice, especially if you have the van. I have the van over here, and that had like a crazy amount. There was a large period in the middle of my game where I was exclusively dealing out of my van. I had like a crap ton of drugs just stored in here, and I would just store my drugs here, come out of here and grab it, because this is a nice central point around the entire map of everything that I had access to at that point. But even just during the day, I would drive my van around. If somebody texted me for a product, and you know, I only had things for sale that I had in my van. So if somebody was asking me for something, I knew I had it in my van. Drive over to it. I don't even have to pull the product out of the van. I just do the thing, and I just drive close enough, do the thing, complete the deal. I don't have to put anything in my inventory or nothing like that. This is a really nice option for, you know, getting things done. Now, things you need to watch out for, now that we're in the nighttime, this is actually a perfect time for that. There are certain parts of town that you just do not use your vehicles for. You do not drive your vehicle in. And the biggest parts that you really need to worry about are this top left corner of the map here. Northtown and Westville has a very high police presence. And as you can see, there's a curfew in effect. It starts from 9 and ends at 5. And if the cops see you out and about while the curfew is in effect, they will try to arrest you. And there's enough of a cop presence around in that part of the town that you're just not going to drive around there and not get some kind of action, especially if you don't have a really fast car like that one. Like this car right here, I can generally outrun them, and, you know, it's not that much of a problem. But if you're driving the van around, or even worse, the first little crappy car that you have, you're just not able to drive fast enough and be agile enough to get away from them. And I got caught at least twice because I just kind of got stuck. So just keep that in mind as you're starting to use vehicles. You can use them at night, but especially at first, the vehicles just aren't that useful because you're only really dealing out of these two areas here, and you're going to be skateboarding a lot. So just keep that in mind. The other thing that you need to watch out for as you're running around these maps here is once you tell the cartel, once you tell Thomas Benzie, the cartel leader, that no, I am actually not going to work for you, I'm going to do my own thing and F off, you start getting attacked by his thugs, and, you know, I've died multiple times and had to start over from your last save. That's the big thing I want you to watch out for when it comes to the Cartel Thugs, because if you're not prepared to deal with them, you're spacing out, you're not ready for them to pop around a corner at you, because they do. They show up out of nowhere. They pop around a corner at you, you're not ready for them, they kill you, and you have to start back from whatever the last save you did was, which typically, you know, unless you're really religious about saving, is going to be right around the morning of whatever day you were on, which means that if you're at night, and they attack you, and you just spent the last 20 minutes, you know, doing wheeling and dealing and doing all of your stuff, trying to get through the day, and then you die, you have to do that entire day all over again. So just keep that in mind as you're you know, running through and watching through that stuff. It's kind of important. Now, some of the things I think need work in this game. Let's move our vehicle out of the way so that these people will stop blocking the road. Some of the things that need work in this game, obviously the big one is that I think that the developer should really sit down and take a break from developing new stuff and start putting some in-game tutorials and manuals in for the existing stuff. Now, why do I say that? The problem that we have is that sometimes you get kind of a general vague instruction on how something works, but for something a little bit more complex, like obviously when you go over here to like the mixing station, it'll tell you, okay, well, insert weed, insert mixer, insert whatever mixer that you're going to put in, right? Like sometimes you get some little helpful hints and things like that. But, and you know, packaging, like there's labels here that tell you, some of these have instructions on them, but for the most part, a lot of this stuff, a lot of the more complicated stuff just isn't explained to you, and you kind of have to go outside of the game to get it. And sure, you can do that, but I am an advocate of the idea that your game should be self-contained, and you should be able to do and learn everything in the game from the game. And I don't want to have to go, you know, do a Google search on how do I assign employees to do this, and where do I find my employees, and how, yeah, like all of that kind of stuff. They really, like the developer needs to sit down and do a full in-game manual that you like an app on your phone that brings up and gives you a list of the different things and how you do them, rather than it being something that he relies on you just going outside and figuring out how to do it out of the game. A fully polished game will have that. So I know it's still in development technically. We don't technically have a full release. I'm really hoping that's something that gets added before the end. Another thing that really needs to be added are zone labels, because if you don't know that this is Northtown and this is Westville and downtown is like right here, like the downtown area is like right here. Obviously this is suburbia. When I first started the game, I thought that I didn't realize how small the map is, and I was assuming that, you know, the entire area here was where we were, and then we would unlock there's like a bridge over here that's like broken. It's not finished. It's like way off in that direction. So like if you look at the road, well, you can't see here, but there's like a big highway that goes across, and it goes in this direction, and it just kind of cuts off, and you can't access the highway. When I first started, I assumed that this entire area was the first zone that we were unlocking, because I'm used to big games, I'm used to big areas, I'm used to all of that kind of stuff. I just assumed that this was the first starting area. That's all this was, and that the next area would be off somewhere this way. Until I looked at a map and I was like, oh, okay, so I have this zone here unlocked, and then this zone, like this is the entire game map, and I didn't know that because there was nothing in the information provided to me that told me that. So a little bit more hand-holding as far as helping us identify what it is that we're doing. Some kind of a mark on here that delineates where Northtown is, where Westville is, like little zones that highlight where each of the different zones are so that you know where they are. That would be really nice to have. The travel system in this game is pretty solid, but I feel like the difference between the car versus the skateboard is a little bit skewed. I don't know that it necessarily needs... I don't really know what I want to suggest for this. All I know is that it just seems kind of weird to me that my skateboard can sometimes travel faster than some of the vehicles in the game. I think that's a little bit unrealistic. I don't know that it bothers me, but it is something I just wanted to bring up as something that needs work, because you shouldn't really be relying on your skateboard all the time, and I know that there's players out there that do that, so maybe not. The last thing I want to talk about in the needs work section, basically, is what we've been talking about the last few topics, is the criminal record part of the game. I find the police interactions very underwhelming. It becomes a little bit more difficult to deal with the police as you level up. Like, they become more aggressive, like they become more watchful of you as you get leveled up. But there's no consequences to committing any crimes in this game, and I think that there should really be some kind of like advancing system of the more you screw up, the more the police keep an eye on you, and the harsher the penalties are, and things like that. Because right now, the only penalties that you get are what you happen to be doing at the time and what that specific crime was. There's no reference to any previous criminal activity that you've done, the previous times that you've got caught, and the consequences for getting caught are so minimal that unless you just happen to have a bunch of product on you, there's just no consequences. So I think that the criminal record system, the advancing level of you got caught and now there's a stiffer penalty, and I don't know, maybe if you make it, if you're so bad, if you're crazy bad, really bad criminal, you go to jail for life, and you lose that. Maybe there could be a hardcore mode where maybe you get sentenced to life in prison and your save file is done, or something like that. I don't know, something cool like that. But at the very least, there needs to be some kind of continuing progression in your criminal record, so that when you get caught, it stays on your record, and then the next time you get caught, it takes that into consideration rather than just it goes away, right? I think the law enforcement element in this game is just not nearly fleshed out enough, and it really needs a lot of work. Now, the last thing I want to talk about are some things I'd like to see in the game as far as just desirable improvements that would make the quality of the game a little bit better. They aren't necessary, and if they never get implemented, then it's not that big of a deal, but they are things that I would like to see because I've noticed them as I've been going through the game, and it would make the game feel a lot better if we had them. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is right-hand man. Oh my god, it would be really nice if we could have the typical, stereotypical right-hand man who does all of the little, BS tasks that we don't want to do. As the drug kingpin that I'm trying to be, running through all of this stuff, my primary goal is to, manage all the logistics, deal with my dealers, and, manage my dealers, and just, go around to the different properties and make sure that things are running the way that they're supposed to. One of the most annoying and, kind of time-consuming things is paying your employees. To pay your employees, you have to put money into these lockers that they're assigned to. They draw their money as soon as either at the beginning of the day if you pre-stage the cash, or whenever you put the cash in there if you haven't put it in for that day. And it's really annoying to have to come in here, click, 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 come in here, click, 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 click. It would be really nice if you just had a right-hand man that just handled all of your payroll needs, right? You go to talk to him every day. He says, okay, boss, we have this list of, he gives you the list of employees, what they cost, and then you either click the checkbox to pay them, or just click all and pay all, or have a pay all button, or have something where I don't have to manually walk around and do this, this gameplay loop of clicking all of these lockers. It's not so bad when you only have like one property and maybe 5 or 6 employees. But I have several properties now at this point. I have a weed operation here. I have a meth operation. I have a cocaine operation in the barn on the other side of town. I have a meth operation in a bungalow house on the other side. Let me show you here. I have meth happening over here. I have weed happening over here. I have cocaine happening over here. And I have a storage facility that I'm storing a bunch of stuff in over there. And if I assigned employees over there, I would have to put lockers there and go pay them too to get them to do the stuff I want them to do. So having some kind of a right-hand man where I can just click on him and manage all of the payments for my employees and everything, that would be really, really nice, because having to deal with that kind of stuff is just really annoying. Another thing I'd like to see updated would be a streamlining of the assignments of employees and what they're doing. So I would really like if there was some kind of a way to get like a top-down view of your property rather than having to go through in 3D space like this and be able to just click things. So like if I could have a top-down view that showed it down here and it had little icons for my employees and little icons for anything I had placed down, then I could just like let me go I could be like, all right, let me click on this. All right, so I want this employee to click on to manage this thing, and then I want this thing to go over to this thing. Because right now the way it works is you have to walk up to each one, you have to manage whatever it is, and then you have to pick what you're going to do with it, right? Which works, it works, and it's very first person and visceral and in your face, and that's fine, I guess, but it's also very time consuming when you're trying to set something up, and then if you want to change anything, you have to go back and change every little thing. Whereas, being able to or at the very least, like it'd be really nice if they change the keyboard, if they change the clipboard here to say allow us to select multiple things at a time, right? So let's say I want to change all of these pots to go somewhere else. It would be nice if I could just click all of them and then change their destination once, change their sort, change their seed, whatever seed I want them to do, and change where they're going once, or just change their seeds or whatever it is that I want to do. It would be nice if I could come in here and just do it, click on all of them, change all of them all at one time instead of having to manually do it now. Because right now I'd have to go in here, click what I want, and then change the destination and do it again, do it again, do it again, do it again. It would be really nice if there was some kind of like streamlining option that allowed me to do multiple things at a time so that I don't have to do it one at a time every time. It's really frustrating to have to do it that way. Product shipments and vehicle assignments and things like that. I feel like in the same vein as the right-hand man, it would be really nice if you were able to move product from one place to another. Because here's my gameplay loop right now. I generally start from the barn in the morning. I pay my guys there, doing the very repetitive clicky into the thing, clicky into the lockers thing. And then I drive over here to my warehouse, which is where I'm growing all my weed stuff. I pay all of these people with the clicky, clicky, clicky. And then if I need to grab some product, I'll grab it, and then I'll drive back over here, and then I'll go over here. I'll visit my first dealer for the day, take her money, give her any material give her any product that she needs. Then I come over here to the meth house, and then because I'm storing all of my meth, I'm only doing production over here because I don't have a lot of storage room there, so I have all of my meth stuff going over to my storage facility. And it would be really nice if rather than me having to move that stuff over there, I could have shipments that happen where I have special handlers that take product from one place and move it to another place. So that way I don't personally have to come here and move it. It just automatically, it gets produced here, it gets packaged here, and then it gets moved over here and stored here. And then when I need it, or maybe I could have, maybe my dealers could access it somehow. It would be really nice if I could. I want a little bit more of a complex system so that rather than me having to go get product to my dealers all the time, I can just assign, hey dealer, go. This is where you go and pick up your product if you want it. That kind of stuff. I'd like a little bit more of an involved system of moving things around, because doing it myself, yeah, it's gameplay, and yeah, it keeps you busy, but I'd rather focus on more high-level stuff at the more complex things get. That's all I'm saying. So having some kind of a product shipment, and then taking the vehicles that you purchase and making them assignable to the people that are going to be driving around and moving things will make it so that you don't, when you upgrade a vehicle, you're not just You don't just have this vehicle just sitting out there and it's not doing anything. Now now you can assign an employee to it, and they use that to move product from one place to another. So I think that would be something really cool to add to the game to make it a little bit more in-depth and fleshed out. Having a right-hand man that allows you to streamline your payroll and kind of handle all of the paperwork kind of stuff, and then product shipments and vehicle assignments that you can give to drivers. You would make them drivers. Introduce a new driver class of character that's able to take vehicles and move product from one place to another, and so that way it encourages you to save up money to buy another vehicle so that you can get another driver so that they can start moving stuff around, and it makes your old vehicles worth something, and it encourages you to buy other vehicles, buy the best vehicle for whatever job you're having them do. I think the limitations on employees are a little bit overdone. I could fit a fair bit more in the way of pots in here, but because the botanist can only do 8 pots at a time, or eight things at a time. Like, I'd love to be able to have one botanist handle this entire side. Like, that would be really nice. And one botanist handle this entire side. But to do that, I would have to have way more botanists than I have now to handle all this, because they can only handle 8 things at a time. So 4 and 4, that's all a botanist can do. That leaves, and then, it's just you never have enough. There's not enough space for employees to do everything that you want, because I can only have 10 employees here, and as you can see, we already have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I can take 2 more employees, and then I'm maxed out on this facility. I can't do any more. I have room to where I could do more stuff than 10 employees can do, but there's no point in fleshing that out because I can't hire any more employees, virtually any more employees than I can hire now. Especially if I want to keep things clean. I'm already struggling with keeping things cleaned up because trash cans don't reach everywhere. So just having them, I think there's a way to do this. Without having to have them specifically assigned to specific things. Maybe that could fix the problem, make it so that maybe they have a square footage of things that they can cover. And if an item that they can do is within the square footage that they can reach, then they'll work on it or something like that. I don't know. But yeah, just a little bit more. Having the employees have a little bit more versatility and have a little bit more capacity to get things done would be really nice, because I would love to just pack this place to the rafters with weed, but there's no point because I'm never going to be able to hire enough employees to actually make that work. So it would be really nice if we did that. The last thing I would like to see as far as desirable improvements would be supply notifications. One of the big things I run into is that I have to spend a lot of time running around to see, oh, did I run out of soil? Oh, nope, I still have soil. Do I still have seeds? Oh, nope, I'm out of seeds. I need to order seeds. So it would be nice if we got, we already have to, for most of these guys, for anybody, okay, 2 things. The botanists have a supply thing, right? So the botanist already has a supply container of some kind that they're looking at. It would be nice if they could send me a text message saying, hey, we're getting low on this. And you can set your threshold for however you want it to be. Like he already has a mechanism for that, right? He already has a mechanism for that. I think on the containers here, right? Yeah. So that he already has a threshold for your mixing station. Must have X blah blah blah. You could have it set up so that the supply thing here. When you click on this, maybe there's a slider bar under here that says notification threshold, and then you get a text message once the inventory reaches that, so that you can then go into your deliveries and schedule an order, because deliveries take a little while to get to you. It's not just an instant kind of thing. So it'd be nice if the person responsible for the supplies that they're using to do their job would send you a text message saying, hey, we're at 25% of this particular item. You should probably order some more. And then I can stop what I'm doing, set an order, and then do all of that kind of stuff. It would be really nice to have some kind of notification letting me know I'm getting low on supplies, so I don't have we're paying these guys every day, so I don't want them just sitting around doing nothing. I want them working, and they stop working when they run out of stuff here. So something to keep in mind. Anyways, that's everything that's on my list of things I wanted to talk about for this review. Overall, an amazing game. I have nothing but great things to say about it, except for I know it seems like I had a bunch of bad things to say about it, but overall, the great stuff vastly outweighs the negative stuff. I'm just a process improvement person, so I'm going to notice these kinds of things, and I'm going to call them out, and I'm going to put them out there as things that should be fixed to make it even better than it already is. I have been obsessively playing this game for the last week, and I already have, I don't even know, I already have, 64 hours in this game at this point. And that's in the last week. I have been playing this game from the time I get up until the time I go to bed, for every hour that's been available. It's very fun. I'm not sure about replayability. There's an optimal way to do everything, and I'm not sure I'm going to find a better way to do things. But for the first time and for your first experience, and maybe subsequent playthroughs, I'll do things a different way. But it's extremely fun, extremely amazing. There are some things that need to be done, and obviously it's not a full release game. But if these things get if some of these things get implemented, I think you're going to feel a lot more like a boss and a lot less like a dude running around like a chicken with your head cut off. So it'd be really nice to see these things implemented. But overall, really great game. Really glad I played it, and I'm looking forward to the future improvements. So thanks for watching. Hit the like button, subscribe to help us reach 10,000 subscribers. Join as a member for early access to videos, among other perks, or you can just leave YouTube's version of a tip with that thanks button. I also have PayPal and Patreon links if you'd like to go that route. So again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you for whatever the next video happens to be.